proud to be live on.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to get started in just a moment. Stay tuned. Stand by.
So both your chats are up here in case anyone chats with you.
Okay.
You can see them. You
I've
don't
got
have to type back to them.
Twitch.
Vimeo up there. You don't really need it. So we can leave it like this, I guess. When it's ready to get started, this button right here, you're going to do pull down.
Mm-hmm.
And when you want to switch to your computer, you're going to right click on this.
Got it.
Remember to right click back.
Okay. Wait, what about when I want the little, if I'm here and I want my...
You click push right here.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Got it. Okay. Cool. So when it goes live, I pull this back and it will already be set for camera 1. Then I'll talk. Yep.
Over here and you're going to push for
Yep.
your webcam.
Okay, cool. I'll go nice and slow.
1 minute, 7 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it's popcorn. Chell, you watching your Sesame Street? Whoa. All across. Oh, it's the across the world. Whoa. 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 Oh, sorry. Did I just sing? Oh, Charlie, honey, you're going to push the fence. There you go. Okay. Wait, Charlie, hold on. Okay. Here, can you give this to Daddy real quick? Popcorn. Actually, Ishchal, here, you can play with this one. These are a little old and stale. Hey guys, welcome back. Oh, okay. All right. All righty, let's get started.
Say bye to Mama. Bye, Mama. She'll give us some popcorn.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the TechQuitos show. This is episode 3. If you are new to this show, just a little background. My name is Yadira, and I'm here live at the Sunset Spark studio or headquarters, where each week we gather and talk a little bit about old forms of technology. We look at how they exist in present day, and then we do a fun experiment to kind of imagine what this type of technology may look like in the future. As always, we are encouraging families to learn together, transform that kitchen or a small part of your sala into a lab so we can learn together. So now, let's get started, shall we? Today we are going to delve into tasty tech. And as you can see, I have quite an array of treats with me today. But what we're really focusing on today is palomitas. Palomitas in Spanish literally translates into little doves. And I mean, it's a very beautiful way to look at popcorn. In English, it's just called popcorn. But palomitas, little doves. pretty artistic and poetic in my opinion. Oh, sorry, my studio audience, Chelly's here to taste the craft table. Oh,
You can't take the whole bowl.
those are stale, but go for it. Anyway, yes, super family friendly here. So she may be my guest, or she may be cameoing later. But nonetheless, so we're going to get started. There's really two things that I want us to try to do today. I want us to chat a little bit about just the experimentation behind popcorn, how it came to be, the people behind those experiments. We'll talk about it now, but also, I think just as exciting, we're going to experiment with some flavor profiles, and we're also going to experiment with the physical change of popcorn. So it's not really molecular gastronomy, but we are going to be talking a little bit about matter later on. So anyway, grab some popcorn if you have some, and let's tune in, yeah? All right, so let me get us started here. Okay. So, palomitas, popcorn. Let's go to my next slide. Okay. Cool. All right, so let's go back about 9,000 years to be exact. What researchers and scientists have discovered is that popcorn really has been around for a while. Well, nearly 9,000 years to be exact. But I think what's interesting is how it's evolved. So if you look at the picture I've got here, we've got the kind of like the original form. And that there at the top, the picture there is a wild grass, teosinte. And if you could just take a moment to observe the shape, the width, totally different compared to how we may associate corn now, or in Spanish, maíz. So I think that the color itself is quite interesting, but also the angle in which it grows. So if you can just imagine here, this particular type of maíz, or wild grass that then after many years is experimented with to then come up with popcorn. I think that's a pretty remarkable discovery, not knowing that that's really where you want to end up, right? So, so while I think folks are commonly associate the Aztecs with popcorn, even though they're not the ones to really invent it, they did use it. I think quite wisely. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But at least what we know is that the Mesoamericans learned through experimenting how to domesticate this type of corn, or this popcorn. Oops. Okay. I will say that while that particular teosinte, while that is native to Mexico, to the area or the region, which is now Mexico, I'd say I think researchers have found evidence of this particular variation of corn discovered in the Andes sometime around, like, I think it's about 4,000 years ago. So what that's suggesting is that while popcorn is really being experimented with about 9,000 years ago, it does make its way down to South America, where they experiment even further with different variations of that kind of corn. But as I mentioned, the Aztecs, they're involved in all of this because as you know, during their reign and their expansion of the Aztec Empire, what they ended up doing was really infusing popcorn into important religious ceremonies. And as they were expanding, they really were able to use popcorn to further reach other areas. And so what we end up seeing is here, I'll just kind of walk you through some of the pictures I've got here. That first one there is popcorn being used in the headdress. It's kind of mixed in, so you may not be able to see it all that well, but you see there's like a big ceramic pot filled with some popcorn. Then you also have a stalk of corn, and then, of course, the headdress with some popcorn husks or cobs sticking out. And then he has some type of stick as well, probably used in ceremonies with what may be some popcorn as well. What's interesting, and unfortunately I couldn't find any evidence of this, but scientists have come across references to how popcorn was used in not just in their headdresses, like ceremonial headdresses, but also as like the inspiration for like their dances to the gods. So young women would have a popcorn dance and perform. And they would also adorn statues of their gods with popcorn, whether it was necklaces, maybe some elaborate earrings. So there are artifacts and evidence of how popcorn is used during that period among the Aztecs. And then at the bottom here, totopoca. What I thought was also interesting is I came across some information of how the Aztecs had created a word specifically to describe the sound and the process of popcorn, and that is called totopoca. And I thought that was interesting that there's actual language created around the sounds of popcorn. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. Wanted to share that with you as well. Okay. Alrighty. So now that we have kind of, we've gone back in time and explored like those ancient forms of how popcorn was used and the evolution. Oh, I will say this before we go on to the more present applications of popcorn. I will say this, while there is evidence that popcorn existed or the domestication of that particular variation existed, it wasn't, there weren't any vessels, there weren't any particular like popcorn pots that that showed that the people, Mesoamericans of that time, were using tools. They were experimenting with the popcorn itself through other natural matter or natural methods. So I thought that was interesting too. They really weren't focusing on where to put it and tools. It was really just looking at the kernel itself and figuring out how it would react in different environments. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Kind of a cool way to look at a scientific method. Okay, so let's fast forward to kind of present day. Here's what we know about popcorn now. So we know it starts off as a kernel, and if you've ever reached down at the bottom of your bowl and you've taken a big bite, you know what a kernel is, and you know what the soft popcorn is, right? So I feel like I've chipped my tooth on kernels before, but this is its natural state, right? It's this hard, small kernel. But when the temperature reaches 180 degrees, you see here in the next picture that a leg is formed by expansion. So what's really happening here is that the hull is breaking because the moisture and the starch that the hull is protecting, it's getting pressurized under the heat, right? So so then that obviously creates this reaction, and that water vapor then makes it pop. So that's what you have in the second phase. The third is of the expanding leg. Basically, what all that pressure is then exerted out, and the popcorn then kind of jumps, which leads us to the last step or last phase, and that's the popcorn doing its aerobatics, and then boom, that's what we get, this nice fluffy piece of popped popcorn. To me, this is like amazing like mechanics in motion, and I feel like there could be some really interesting similarities to how popcorn is popped compared to how gymnasts do flips. All of that. The power and force that have to go in to those first few phases in order for it to pop all the way. So that, my friends, oopsies, is, let me back out here for just a second. Okay. So that is kind of a really quick journey through ancient experimentation with popcorn to more of like what we know now in the science of popcorn, to now the fun part, which is experimenting, thinking about popcorn down the line, popcorn of the future. So last week, our class was based off of Juan Garcia Esquivel, who was kind of like this godfather of, or the father of space age sounds, and so it just so happened we timed it so that, or planned it on the same day as the launch of SpaceX rocket, and it got me thinking of what food might look like, the form it might take in the future. And I think about how things have to be more compact, perhaps. And it got me thinking about the space ice cream. If you guys have ever seen that, it's basically like in powder form in these, perfectly packaged, vacuum-sealed bags that can be hydrated or rehydrated once you're up in space. And I thought about, well, yeah, I do think that it's fascinating to imagine what some of our foods, our favorite foods, might look like in different textures or in different physical forms. And not necessarily because we're going to go to the moon or whatever, but also just kind of playing around with the different properties and looking at the changes. So anyway, all of this to say, today I would like us to explore or experiment with that physical change. So I would like to take some of this popped popcorn and turn it into a different form, and then we're going to experiment. We're going to experiment with some unique flavor profiles. So this is the time where I'm going to just quickly, hang on just a sec. Let me go ahead and show you the tools that you might need for today's experiment. So we're going to need a blender. A hand blender is fine, or a regular blender. But if you are a kid who's doing this, please wait for or ask a grown-up to help. Then I want you to just go into your cupboards, find anything that you have around the house, something that like something with flavor that you really enjoy. And then, of course, I'm going to ask you to get some popped popcorn. All right. So those are the three things. It could be more flavorings if you have more at home. But just to kind of start us off, I think we'll go there. And I'm going to walk you through how I experimented with flavors and textures. Okay, so what we're going to do first. Oh, right. Let me show you my flavor profiles. These, I swear, all of the middle school students that we have at Sunset Spark are addicted to these. Actually, even our elementary students. The Takis. Today I have crunchy fajitas, although my feeling is that fuego is really the way to go. Get that lime and that chile and salt. Listen, I don't know what it is about that flavor profile, but we put that on everything from mangoes to sandia to, whatever it is, we'll put the chile and the lime on any day. And by the way, also made of corn flour. And then I have Cheetos, Cheeto poofs. They're not puffs, they're poofs. This is also made out of corn flour. So totally I just happen to have these. And so I thought, okay, we're going to play around with those flavors. The other thing, this I loved growing up as a kid. I would go to the stores and stock up on my de la Rosa. It's dulce de cacahuate, which is like a peanut powder. It's super duper yummy. And what's great about this is it's already in powder form. So we're going to be experimenting with that powder texture. And so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to grab our blender, our hand blender. We're going to turn our popped fluffy popcorn into a very fine powder. We should see, it's going to be a bit of a mess, but we'll see how this all pans out. We're going to turn it into really, really fluffy powder. We're going to add some flavor, and then we'll package it so that next time when the movie theater opens, you can try taking some of this future popcorn with you. All right, so let's get started. We have our flavors, we have our popped popcorn, and our blender. So we're going to start off by just adding some popcorn in here. All right, let me just check a few things. Oh, it's interesting. If you can check this out, how the kernel pops. Sometimes it's half popped, and most of the time, though, it reaches the final stage of its popped state. Okay. So I think just to maybe make this a little bit easier. No, I'm going to do it separately. Okay. Very carefully snap in your blender. Now this is where things might get a little crazy. We're going to start to see it float, which I think is also kind of futuristic, popcorn that floats. But anyway, here we go. Sorry, it's going to get loud for a second, guys. All right, hang on. I'm going to wrap this up a little bit so it's not all over the place. Or maybe, doesn't matter. All right, give this a good blend for about a minute or so. There we go. Almost there. Almost there. Doing great. I am noticing it's not as fluffy as it was yesterday, so you may want to use fresh popped popcorn. I think also what's nice about this texture or this form is that kids could actually eat it and it'll just melt right in their mouth, whereas with younger kids, you're always nervous. Actually, not even younger kids. With adults, sometimes you can. We're just going to leave it at that for now. And I'll repeat what I just said because you probably didn't hear it. So what I wanted to point out is that what kind of makes it reminds me of baby food, basically, because sometimes that the hull gets caught in people's throats, and that makes you cough, and whatever, and that's part of the reason why, obviously, little kids or even like toddlers can't eat popcorn. So I would say something to keep in mind is like this would be a great way to give little ones just a little taste of popcorn. Okay, so as I mentioned, yesterday I popped this popcorn, so it's not actually as powdery as I would like it to be. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bit more coarser than I had hoped, but that's okay. I have some examples from yesterday when it was fresh. So what do you know? There's one of my experiments by accident. Use fresh popcorn, and what's going to happen when you blend it is that all of the little bubbles that are trapped in the actual popcorn, because that's what it is when you think about, well, what makes it so light and fluffy? It's all of these little bubbles that are trapped within the corn. And so as it expands in the heat, it makes it bigger and fluffier. Well, that same idea crosses over to when you blend it. So last night when I was blending it, what I started seeing was this floating effect of the popcorn powder, and it was like snow. It would just the minute the fan from the blender hit it, it would float up in the air and just kind of float for a while, kind of like snow actually. So if you're gonna do this, make sure you use fresh popcorn and not like this. But all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that over here for now, because now it's time to blend some flavors. I am going to let's do some Cheetos. So if you like cheese flavoring on your popcorn, here you go. Now, is this the healthiest? No, do not. I would not recommend this for those who are watching their diet. But nonetheless, I just want to give you the effect. I want to show you how you would grind this up into popcorn to then mix with your regular popcorn. Okay, here we go. Almost done, guys. Awesome. All done here. Okay. So now what you would do ideally is you would add let me grab my plastic bag here. You would grab your flavoring. You'd grab look how fluffy that is, by the way. Yum. So you're taking, in terms of ounces, you're probably taking, well, what is this? Like 38. Okay, so 16 ounces. Taking about 16 ounces of like this big, fluffy Cheetos, and you're actually reducing it by half. So it does actually seem like a good idea if you're packing small. If you don't have a whole lot of room, heck, maybe this powdered idea is really, I'm really onto something. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in my powdered popcorn. We'll shake it up, and then we'll all taste. Again, I'm using the coarser kind from yesterday. And just zip. Go tick, 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 tick. Okay, so we're just pretending we're mixing really well. Our final product is this, our cheese popcorn flavored powder. I will say I did test all of these out yesterday, and I thought they were actually pretty good. And it reminded me of Fun Dip. Now, I don't have a candy stick that you could dip this in, but you could totally do that. And what's nice, the texture. It's like croutons. So, anyway, that was my cheese puff. I went ahead and made some taki ones, which, spot on with the lime and the chile. So that one was this. That's what that looks like. And then for dessert, I just want to show you again how fine that is. Then I'd made my my salted peanut butter popcorn mix. And that's this one, which I'm just going to have. That is super good. I'm not just saying that because I did it. That's really good. All right. So now you've made your 3 yummy treats. Here's what I would do. Say you're going out for a rooftop movie, the movies, whatever. Make yourself some of these cute little envelopes out of paper. Just fold them in half, tape each side, and I'm going to put that on a piece of paper. Create a little bit of a funnel here. Okay. Pour that in. And voila, let me put that back. And voila, guys, you have your own little popcorn pouch with what I think might be the future of popcorn. I don't know. We'll see, right? Only time will tell. I hope you had a great time experimenting with me today. I hope you learned a little bit more about the ancient forms of popcorn, the technology behind that, and the people behind it. And I hope that you will try some of these wacky flavors. Remember, pick anything you've got around the house. It doesn't have to make sense, but the idea is that you try and you experiment. So, thank you so much for joining me again, and I hope that we'll see you next week. Not quite sure what our topic will be, but I promise you it'll be fun. So, be well. Take care, guys. Bye. Wait. Putting